Hello, students. Welcome to this lecture on the course Principles of Political Science. Today's lecture on scope of political science, traditional and modern view. In lecture 1, we understood the meaning and definition of political science, and in lecture 2, we explored its nature, whether it is a science or an art or both. Today, in lecture 3, we take the next logical step. Now that we know what political science is and what kind of discipline it is, a very important question arises: what does it actually study? What are the boundaries of this subject? This is what we call the scope of political science. Understanding scope gives us a clear map of what to expect from this field. Today's lecture is carefully organized. We begin by understanding what scope means in an academic context. Then we will move into the traditional scope, what classical thinkers believed the subject should cover. We examine its limitations and understand how the modern scope emerged. We study key thinkers like Aristotle, Bluntschli, Garner, Harold Laswell, and David Easton. We explore expanding areas like public policy, international relations, comparative politics, and political economy. We then compare traditional and modern views and discuss the interdisciplinary character of the discipline. We close by examining contemporary relevance and the scope of political science in the Indian context. Let us begin. Before we study the scope of political science specifically, let us understand what scope means when applied to any academic discipline. In everyday language, scope means the range or extent of something, how far it reaches, what it includes, and what it leaves out. When we talk about the scope of an academic subject, we ask what are the boundaries of this discipline? What themes and questions does it investigate? What methods does it use? Understanding the scope is important for three reasons. First, it gives the subject a clear identity. Students and scholars know what belongs to this field. Second, it guides research. Scholars know what questions are appropriate within this discipline. Third, it distinguishes the discipline from related fields, helping us understand how political science is different from history, sociology, economics, psychology, etc., etc., even though these subjects overlap. The scope of any discipline is not fixed forever. It evolves as society changes, as new problems emerge, and as new methods are developed. The scope of political science has changed dramatically from classical to modern period or over the past 2 centuries, from a narrow focus on the state and government to a broad engagement with power, behavior, culture, policy, and global affairs. This evolution is a central story we explore today. Let us now examine the traditional scope of political science. The traditional view dominated the discipline from ancient times until roughly the early 20th century. During this long period, political science was, understood primarily as the study of state and government. Classical and early modern thinkers believed that the state was the central subject of political inquiry. Everything else, laws, rights, government, justice, was understood in relation to the state. This focus was not arbitrary. The state is the most powerful form of human political organization, claiming sovereignty over a defined territory and population, making laws, maintaining order, and shaping citizens' lives. For traditional thinkers, understanding the state, its origin, nature, forms, purposes, and powers was the core task of political science. This focus gave the discipline a clear and defined boundary. Political scientists knew what they were studying, the state and its institutions. This clarity produced rich knowledge about constitution, laws, government structures, and political philosophy. However, as we shall see in coming slides, this narrow focus also carried important limitations that eventually led to a major expansion of discipline's scope in the 20th century, giving rise to what we now call the modern scope of political science. When we discuss the traditional scope of political science, the first and most important name is Aristotle. We met him in earlier lectures as the father of political science, but today we look specifically at his contribution to defining what political science should study. For Aristotle, the proper subject of political science was the polis, the city-state. In his famous work, Politics, Aristotle examined the nature, purpose and forms of the state. He studied different types of constitution, monarchy, aristocracy, and polity, and analyzed which form of government best promoted the good life for citizens. Aristotle combined empirical observation with normative analysis, studying 158 constitutions of Greek city-states and drawing theoretical conclusions. However, his focus remained firmly on the state as a political institution. For Aristotle, the state was the supreme association because it alone could provide conditions for the full realization of human potential. Everything else in society, like family, economic associations, religious communities, was subordinate to and contained within the state. And that is why a state which studies political science, which studies state and state which controls the entire life of human beings, is called as the master science. Aristotle's vision defined the traditional scope for centuries. His influence can be seen in the writings of later thinkers who continued to treat the state as the central subject of political inquiry, shaping the discipline well into modern times. While Aristotle laid the philosophical foundation of the traditional view, two later thinkers, John Caspar Bluntschli and James Wilford Garner, gave it its most precise modern formulation. John Caspar Bluntschli was a Swiss German political theorist who lived from 1808 to 1881. In his work, The Theory of the State, Bluntschli defined political science as the science concerned with the state. For Bluntschli, the state was not merely one subject amongst many, it was the exclusive and defining subject, a unique or human association possessing sovereignty, permanence, and moral purposes. Political science was therefore essentially the science of the state. Garner was an American political scientist who gave an equally influential definition. In his work, Introduction to Political Science, Garner argued that political science begins and ends with the state. This powerful formulation captured the essence of the traditional view. For Garner, political science was not concerned with society at large, individual political behavior, or informal processes. It was concerned specifically with the state, its nature, forms, organs, functions, and relationships. Together, Bluntschli and Garner represent the high point of the traditional state-centered conception of political science that prevailed in the 19th and early 20th centuries. An important characteristic of the traditional school was its emphasis on the legal and institutional approach. Traditional political scientists studied formal institutions like constitution, legislature, executives, judiciaries, and administrative structures through their legal frameworks, written rules, and formal powers. This approach has deep roots in law and constitutional theory. Many early political scientists were trained as lawyers and naturally brought a legal perspective to their work. They analyzed constitutions to understand how governments were organized, what powers each branch possessed, and what rights citizens had. The institutional approach produced a genuinely valuable knowledge. Detailed studies of constitutional design, legislative procedure, executive authority, and judicial review gave scholars a rigorous understanding of how political systems were formally structured. This remains relevant even today, understanding how India's parliament functions, how the Supreme Court exercises judicial review, or how the federal system divides power between center and state requires attention to formal legal arrangements. However, the limitation of this approach was that it focused only on formal structures and ignored the real processes and behaviors during political life. It told us what governments were supposed to do according to law, but said very little about what they actually did and why. This gap created the demand for a more comprehensive approach. The traditional scope, while intellectually serious, had important limitations but became apparent as political life grew more complex. The first limitation was excessive narrowness. By restricting political science to the state and formal institutions, the traditional approach ignored political parties, interest groups, public opinion, electoral behavior, and the role of ordinary citizens in political life. The second limitation was neglect of social context. Politics is deeply shaped by social structures, caste, class, gender, ethnicity, religion, etc., and of course by cultural values, historical experiences, and economic conditions. The traditional approach focused on formal legal institutions largely ignored these dimensions. In India, this limitation was particularly significant because of its multicultural nature, diversity of language, religion, etc., etc. Now, understanding Indian democracy requires understanding caste, communalism, regional identity, and economic inequality, none of which fit neatly into a state centered framework. The third limitation was the static nature of the traditional approach. By focusing on formal institutions and their legal structures, it described politics as formally organized rather than as a dynamic, evolving process. This made it poorly equipped to study political change, revolution, and transformation, all central concerns of any serious political science. Taken together, these limitations made the traditional scope increasingly inadequate for studying the complex and rapidly changing political realities of the 20th century. The limitations of the traditional scope combined with major changes in political life during the 20th century created a strong pressure for a fundamental rethinking of what political science should study. Several factors drove this shift. First, the rise of mass democracy made the behavior of ordinary citizens, voters, party activists, social movements, participants central to political life. Traditional political science had little to say about these actors. Second, the two world wars and the Great Depression demonstrated that political outcomes could not be understood solely through formal governmental structures. Deep social, economic, and psychological forces were clearly shaping political life. Third, the growth of the social sciences, sociology, psychology, and economics provided new conceptual tools and methods that political scientists could borrow. Fourth, in the newly independent countries of Asia and Africa, including India after 1947, traditional Western frameworks seemed inadequate for understanding complex political realities. These pressures converged in the behavioral revolution of the 1950s and 60s that we discussed in Lecture 2. The behavioral revolution fundamentally transformed the scope of political science, shifting attention from formal institutions to actual political behavior, from legal analysis to empirical social science, and from static description to dynamic analysis of political system. The behavioral approach made two fundamental contributions to expanding the scope of political science. First, it shifted attention from formal institutions to actual political behavior. What politicians, voters, bureaucrats, and citizens actually do, feel, and believe. Second, it introduced rigorous empirical methods, surveys, statistical analysis, and systematic observation as primary tools of political inquiry. Under the behavioral approach, the scope expanded to include political behavior, how and why individuals vote, what shapes their political opinions, and what factors influence their political choices. The study of voting behavior became a major area of research. Scholars analyzed survey responses to understand what motivates electoral choices in countries like India, the political culture, the values, beliefs, and attitudes a society holds towards politics became the central concern. Gabriel Almond and Sidney Verba, in their classic study, The Civic Cultures, published in 1963, demonstrated through cross-national research that political culture varies significantly and profoundly affects democratic performance. Political participation, the various ways citizens engage with political life beyond voting, also entered the scope. In India, studying participation means examining not just elections but also social movements, panchayat raj institutions, and civil society organizations that mobilize citizens at the grassroots level. Harold Laswell, whose definition of politics we noted in Lecture 1, made one of the most influential contributions to expanding the modern scope. We noted that Laswell defined politics as who gets what, when, and how. Let us now understand how this definition transformed our discipline. In the traditional view, political science studied the state as a formal institution. Laswell defined shifted focus from the state to the distribution of power and resources in society, a genuinely revolutionary move. By defining politics as the study of how values and resources are authoritatively distributed in society, Laswell expanded the scope far beyond formal government institutions. Under his framework, political science must study all processes, actors, and structures through which power is exercised and resources distributed. Not just formal government, but also political parties, pressure groups, media, bureaucracies, and informal networks of influence. In India, studying who benefits from governmental policies, which communities receive what public goods through what administrative processes, and why, is precisely the kind of analysis Laswell's framework enables. Political science under the expanded scope became directly relevant to understanding governance, equity, and social justice in democratic societies, making it far more applicable to the realities that ordinary citizens actually live and experience every day. Another foundational contribution to the modern scope came from David Easton. We studied in Lecture 1. Easton Systems Framework provided a new and comprehensive way of defining what political science should study. Easton defined politics as the authoritative allocation of values for a society. His framework asks, how does a society make binding collective decisions? How does it manage inputs? What are inputs, demand, and supports from society, and how it converts these inputs into outputs, and the outputs are policies, laws, and authoritative decision. Easton's framework expanded the scope in several ways. First, it directed attention to the entire political system, not just formal government, but all activities, all structures, processes, and actors involved in making binding collective decisions. Political parties, interest groups, civil society, and cultural norms all became relevant under this framework. Second, the systems approach emphasized processes, how decisions are made, who participates, and what feedback mechanisms exist rather than just formal structures. Third, it was explicitly dynamic, portraying the political system as continuously processing, changing demands, and adapting over time. In India, this framework is particularly useful. Understanding Indian governance means understanding not just parliament and the executive, but the entire system through which social demands from farmers, workers, students, marginalized communities are processed into public policies. One of the most important areas in which the scope has expanded is public policy. Public policy refers to the to authoritative decisions governments make to address social problems, including economic policy, social welfare, education, health, environment, and foreign policy. In India, the study of public policy is particularly important. Consider policies like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the Right to Education Act, or Goods and Services Tax, that is GST. Each affects hundreds of millions of people. Understanding how such policies are designed, debated, adopted, implemented, and evaluated requires the analytical tools of political science. Public policy analysis examines who sets the agenda, whose problems are defined as worthy of government attention. It examines how policy options are formulated and why some options are chosen over others. It studies implementation, why some excellent policies fail in practice, and what factors affect successful delivery. It evaluates outcomes. Does the policy achieve its goals, and who is benefited and who is left behind? By incorporating public policy into its scope, political science directly addresses, or political science becomes directly relevant to questions of governance and social welfare that matter enormously to ordinary citizens in democratic societies. This practical relevance has made public policy analysis one of the fastest growing subfields in contemporary political science globally. Another major area in which the scope has expanded is international relations. In a world of growing interdependence, no serious study of politics can remain confined to the domestic level. International relations as a subfield examines several important areas. It studies war and peace, what causes armed conflicts, and what conditions favor peaceful resolution of disputes. It examines diplomacy and foreign policy, how states interact, and what strategies they use to achieve international objectives. It studies international organizations like the United Nations, WTO, IMF, their structures, power, and effectiveness. It also examines non-state actors like multinational corporations, NGOs, and international social movements, whose influence on world politics has grown dramatically. For India, the study of international relations is crucial. India's foreign policy, its relations with Pakistan, China, USA, its membership in international organizations, its role in global forums on climate change and trade, and its aspirations to a permanent seat on UN Security Council are all questions of vital national importance. Political science provides the theoretical framework needed to analyze state behavior, power distribution, diplomacy, structure, and processes of international governance in an increasingly interconnected world. Comparative politics is another subfield that has greatly expanded the scope of modern political science. It involves the systematic comparison of political system, institution, processes, and behavior across different countries. By comparing, political scientists can identify patterns, test hypotheses, and develop general theories about political life that go beyond any single country's experience. The comparative approach has produced important, theoretical contribution. Studies comparing democracies across the world have generated theories about what conditions are necessary for democracy to emerge and survive. Studies comparing different electoral systems have shown how rules for translating votes into seats affect political representation and political system. Aaron Liphardt's classic work distinguishing between majoritarian and consensus democracies showed how different constitutional designs produced different political outcomes in rural societies. For India, comparative politics is particularly relevant. India is a federal democracy with a parliamentary system, a first past the post electoral system, affirmative action policies with a multi party system. Comparing India's democratic experience with with other large, diverse democracies such as United States, South Africa, or Brazil teaches us what is unique about India and what is shared with other democracies. One of the most intellectually exciting areas in which the scope has expanded is political economy. Political economy examines the relationship between politics and economics, how political institutions shape economic outcomes, and how economic interests influence political decisions. Traditional political science largely ignored economics, just as traditional economics largely ignored politics. Now we are in an era of interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, studies. The real world does not respect disciplinary boundaries. Rather, we believe in interdependence. Political decisions profoundly shared economic outcomes. India's economic policy since 1991, when liberalization began, was shaped by political negotiations between parties, interest groups, stakeholders, business lobbies, labor unions, and international financial institutions. And economic interests shape political behavior. Who funds political parties? Which economic classes dominate political institutions? And how economic inequality affects political participation? So, political economy studies questions like, why do some governments pursue protectionist trade policies while others embrace free trade? Why do democracies sometimes outperform authoritarian regimes in economic growth and sometimes not? How do international financial institutions influence domestic economic policies in developing countries? And how does geoeconomics affect geopolitics? Now that we have studied both the traditional and modern scope in detail, let us bring them together in a clear comparative analysis. The traditional scope was narrow and state-centered. Its primary focus was state as a formal institution, its nature, form, sovereignty, and constitutional structure. The methods used were primarily legal, institutional, and philosophical. The main thinkers like Aristotle, Bluntschli, and Garner, and their central message was that political science begins and ends with the state. Modern scope is broad and society centered. It goes far beyond the state to include all processes, actors, and structures involved in the distribution of power and making of collective decisions. It uses empirical, behavioral, and interdisciplinary methods. Key thinkers are Harold Laswell, David Easton, Robert Dahl, and Almond, and their central message is that political science must study actual political behavior, culture, participation, policy, and system besides state and government. The shift from traditional to modern scope represents a genuine intellectual revolution. It did not abolish earlier concerns. The state, formal institution, constitutional analysis remain as important, but it vastly enriched the discipline by adding new areas, new methods, and new theoretical frameworks, making political science more empirically rigorous, analytically powerful, and relevant to the contemporary realities of political life. One of the most significant features of the modern scope is its deeply interdisciplinary character. Modern political science borrows concepts, methods, and insights from other disciplines and contributes its own analytical frameworks in return. This reflects the genuine complexity of political phenomena, which cannot be fully understood from any single perspective. Political science borrows from sociology to understand social structure, caste, class, gender, ethnicity that shape political behavior and institutions. In India, understanding reservation politics, communal tensions, or communal mobilization of women's political participation requires sociological insights. It borrows from economics to study how economic interests shape political decisions. It borrows from psychology to study political behavior, how individuals form opinions, respond to leadership, and to make electoral choices. It borrows from history to understand the evolution of political institutions and ideology. It borrows from laws to analyze constitutional arrangements and rights. And it draws from international relations theory to understand global politics. Political science, in return, contributes its distinctive analytical tools, theories of democracy, power, legitimacy, governance, and political system to other social sciences. This bidirectional interdisciplinary engagement makes modern political science one of the richest of all social sciences, as scholars like Robert Dahl and David Easton emphasized throughout their foundational contribution. The expanded modern scope of political science has enormous relevance to the real political challenges of our time. In the area of governance, the analytical tools of modern political science like public policy analysis, institutional theory, and systems analysis, they help us understand many phenomena. In the area of democracy, political science provides a framework to understand, evaluate, and strengthen democratic system, the study of electoral behavior, political culture, civic participation, and democratic institutions gives citizens and policy makers knowledge to diagnose problems and develop solutions. Climate changes, in areas of global politics, there are tools of international relations theory, deterrence, diplomacy, multilateral approach, multilateral cooperation, global governance, which are essential to understand a world of growing complexity. Climate change, terrorism, nuclear proliferation, and global inequality are all political problems requiring political sciences, analytical resources. Before concluding, it is worth reflecting on the scope of political science in the Indian academic and political context. India offers a uniquely rich and challenging setting for applying political sciences insights. First, Indian constitutionalism, the world's longest written constitution with its fundamental rights, directive principles, federalism, and emergency provisions requires both traditional legal institutional analysis and modern political inquiry. Second, Indian electoral politics offers extraordinary, material. India's general elections involve over 900 million registered voters, dozens of national and regional parties, and complex patterns of caste, class, religious, and regional voting behavior, demanding rigorous empirical analysis. Third, Indian federalism, the dynamic relationship between the center and the state, is a major area of contemporary political research. Fourth, the politics of social justice, caste reservations, minority rights, tribal welfare, and gender equity raises fundamental questions about democracy and equity. And lastly, India's growing role in international affairs as a major emerging economy, a nuclear power, and an aspiring permanent member of UN Security Council makes the study of India's foreign policy vital. These themes collectively make the scope of political science in India both vast and deeply important for students, researchers, and citizens. Now, let us consolidate the key ideas from today's discussion. We began by understanding what scope means in an academic context, the boundaries of a discipline, the questions it asks, and the methods it uses. We then studied the traditional scope associated with Aristotle, Bluntschli, and Garner, who defined political science as the study of the state and formal governmental institution. We examined legal and institutional approach, and we understood the narrowness, the neglect of social context, and its static character. We studied the modern scope which emerged through the behavioral revolution and expanded to include political behavior, culture, participation, power, and political systems. We examined the foundational contribution of Laswell and Easton. We explored expanding areas of public policy, international relations, comparative politics, and political economy. We compared traditional and modern scopes and discussed the interdisciplinary character of modern political science, its contemporary relevance, and its scope in the Indian academic context. Thank you. We'll see you in the next lecture.